So it's really funny the way that things work out sometimes. It really is. It never ceases to amaze me how perfect the universe is. So earlier today, I had an interview with Trigonometry, which I'm really excited about. It's going to come out in a couple of weeks. We talked about the workplace. We talked about COVID's impact on the workplace. We talked about anti-racist training in the workplace. And of course, you all know how I feel about white fragility. But one of the questions that they asked me was, how do we come back from organizations believing that they need to implement this stupid, ridiculous anti-racist training and white fragility training when there is literally zero evidence that it is actually effective and, that it's impacting the bottom line. And frankly, when we are showing that it can actually destroy teamwork, destroy team camaraderie, have horrible detrimental impact on organizations, how can we come back for that? And the answer that I had, not to spoil the interview that you guys are going to be able to see in a couple of weeks on Trigonometry's channel, but the answer I had to that was there needs to be one or two brave CEOs that stand up and say no. Because universally, the executives that I have spoken to that are sending out the Black Lives Matter statements and making these big grand gestures about the diversity and inclusion training that their HR people are forcing them to make, universally the executives that I've spoken to think it's all BS. They don't care about it at all. They're just doing it to keep the mob off their back. Now, I'm not going to name names there, but that's what I hear over and over again from some of the biggest companies in the world to small and medium-sized businesses. The executives do not care. This is nonsense. It's being pushed by the HR community and having horrible detrimental effects. And what I said was there needs to be one or two brave executives that stands up from really large companies and says no. And it looks like we may have found one. This is from Revolver. Red Bull just purged high-level executives who pushed for diversity and inclusion. Red Bull. Thank you, Red Bull. Red Bull, you are the hero that we need in this circumstance. And so what we're going to do is we're going to read this article, and I'm going to provide my own commentary, of course. But before we get into that, folks, listen, I'm trying to grow the channel, and what you can do to help me out is subscribe if you like the content I'm putting out. Turn on those notifications. Of course, give it a thumbs up. If you think you're subscribed, if you've subscribed in the past, please make sure just to double check. Listen, I hear from people all the time who say, Carlin, you say all the time that people get unsubscribed from your channel, and I never believed you until I was unsubscribed from your channel. So just give it a double check, man. No harm, no foul. Just if you want to be subscribed, make sure you still are. All right, let's read this article. Red Bull just reminded their wokest employees who calls the shots in a total massacre of social justice employees. Not only were the top two North American executives fired, but so were the entire marketing teams and culture teams that were dedicated to pushing the lie of systemic racism. Oh my God. Oh, thank you, universe. There is still sanity in this crazy world. Red Bull has just shown the way forward for all who want to prevent a total Marxist-style takeover of business and government in America. There is no appeasing these people. The only way forward is to fire them as quickly as possible and with no mercy. Err on the side of firing everyone if need be. And that's true. That's absolutely true. They say when you have a bad apple, a toxic person in your organization, these people bring everyone around them down. And when people get sucked into the social justice ideology, they might be really good people. But if you get sucked into it, you become toxic. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. Now, the efforts of one toxic bad apple on a team can ruin the impact of two rock stars on your team. So when you have entire teams, and especially your marketing team, filled with this nonsense, you've got to get rid of it, man. It may hurt at the beginning, but you're going to be able to bring a whole new team of people in there. You're going to be able to set the standard, and you're going to be able to move forward much more productively, and frankly, at a much less cost, much greater reduced Wow, a much more reduced cost to the organization if you just cut everyone out and start again. And you might even have people on that team that, maybe they aren't so bad, but maybe they just kind of went along with things. But I'm telling you, they're going to still be there, and there are going to be remnants of it there. This is like pulling a weed out of the ground. You got to get it up by the root so that nothing can grow back. Because if that person who you don't think is so bad ends up infecting everyone else around them, well, you just lost 2 teams instead of 1. What this country needs at every level of society, academia, and government is a total and complete purge of woke revolutionaries before the blood starts running in the streets. Of course, they're being dramatic here, but you know what? I don't even care anymore. I don't even care. I like the drama of this article. The Wall Street Journal has more. The maker of Red Bull energy drinks has replaced its top U.S. executives amid internal tensions over the closely held company's response to the Black Lives Matter movement. Red Bull, I'm not going to pronounce that last part, the Austrian company that makes the drink, says Stefan Kozak, its North American chief executive, and Amy Taylor, its North American president and chief marketing officer, have left the company. It named other executives temporarily to fill the roles. Red Bull didn't give a reason for the changes, which were announced in an internal memo on Monday. Mrs. Taylor has been working on diversity and inclusion efforts within the company, and Mr. Kozak's support for several years but was met with opposition when she began advocating for Red Bull to be more overt in its support of racial justice in the last month, according to people familiar with the matter. Of course, that came from the marketing person. Of course it did. Some U.S. employees had recently raised concerns about what they considered the company's inaction on the Black Lives Matter movement. And you know what's going to be really interesting is what happens now. What happens now with those employees that were on the side of doing this diversity and inclusion work? What happens to morale in the company? Are we going to see more turnover? This is going to be like a test case for how companies handle this sort of thing. Is it going to result in a mass exodus and employee protests? Is there going to be mass turnover? Is morale going to sink into the ground? Or is it going to be, as I suspect, just business as usual and life is going to go on and people are actually going to be in a much better place to do their flippin' work? According to Business Insider, these were acts of retaliation, and rightly so. If you find yourself in this position, get an army of lawyers and find the quickest legal route to excising the cancer of social justice in your company. And from Business Insider, they say, several insiders close to the situation said it was widely believed that Kozak and Taylor were fired by Austrian leadership over the leak and internal tension over diversity issues. 2 employees said Taylor had been working on a project to increase black representation at Red Bull, but that the leadership wasn't interested. So I'm interested to know, what was the specific cause? I really wonder, is this about them not wanting to get woke, or was there something else going on? I think it bears questioning over it. Was this really fired for being too woke, or was there other nonsense that was going on? I mean, we don't know, but maybe let me just cross our fingers that it was what we think it is, or what we hope it is, rather. Have you ever heard the phrase, get woke, go broke? It turns out there is a simple way to prevent this, and it involves firing people immediately until the rest of the employees realize that the only way they're going to be able to keep their jobs is by being professional and keeping their kook politics out of the workplace. I love this article so much. This article gives me a hope. This article gives me life. Along with firing executives, Red Bull cut or dissolved entertainment and culture teams in Canada, the UK, and Austria, and canceled most of its major cultural events, including the annual Red Bull Music Festival and Red Bull Presents. I mean, I think we can assume they aren't canceling events because of wokeness, but maybe I'm wrong. 2 employees said Goebel CEO Dietrich, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your last name, dude, told staff earlier this year there wouldn't be any layoffs in 2020. Well, these aren't layoffs. These are pulling up of the weeds of toxicity that were starting to infect the company. Two others who work in marketing, however, said management told them that between 20 and 50 people were laid off or told they would have to choose between new jobs and exit packages. Other employees said the culture teams were seen as the most vocal about racial justice matters and that U.S. staffers saw the restructuring as a form of punishment. Good. Good. Teach the U.S. staffers to keep their mouths shut with things that have nothing to do with their job. And listen, usually I'm actually much more forgiving. When I do training with organizations, I'm all about, this is YouTube. This is not me being professional trainer Carlin, right? I'm all about like hearing people out, speak up, let people say what concerns them. At least you know what's concerning them. You know what's on their minds. That's how you gain buy-in. And all of those things are true. All of those things are true. But I have zero patience anymore for the social justice nonsense. And I understand now why the right doesn't want to give the left an inch. Because the minute that you give them an inch, they take a mile and a half. I get it now. I didn't get it before. I get it now. You absolutely love to see it. It turns out the CEO of Red Bull is a pretty cool guy from the Daily Mail. Red Bull's billionaire CEO is a Donald Trump admirer who has spoken out against political correctness. The 76-year-old tycoon who owns a media firm which has been criticized for giving a platform to far-right activists in his native Austria. Good for him, man. Dude's got FU money. He's 76 years old. He doesn't care anymore. This is exactly, he is the hero that we needed. He is the hero that I was talking about on trigonometry. This guy who is at the end of his career, maybe is close to let's hope he's close to retirement, has all the money he's ever going to need in his life, doesn't have to answer to anyone, doing exactly what needs to be done. And he is not the only CEO that can do this. See, I'm sure no CEOs are watching a YouTube video, but please, billionaire CEOs, if you are, please set an example for the rest of them, please. This is your chance. We will revere you and bow down to you in all your glory if you follow suit with what Red Bull is doing. The company's global CEO is Austrian billionaire Dietrich, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name, who has an estimated fortune of $26 billion and owns a private island in Fiji. In 2017, he expressed sympathy with Donald Trump and said the new president simply needs time. I don't think he's as much of an idiot as he's made out to be, he told the newspaper at the time. I would tend to agree with that, to be honest. When you speak to Americans, you often hear that they're essentially happy to have a new administration. There was plenty to question about the previous one, he said, referring to the Obama administration. Raging at political correctness and the intellectual elite, he also was highly critical of Germany and Austria for opening its doors at the height of the 2015 refugee crisis. Taking aim at those who encourage refugees or used Angela Merkel's slogan of "we'll manage it," he said none of these people made their guest rooms available for 5 migrants to live in. You know, I don't care about any of the rest of that stuff. What I care is that he is like a saucy old guy who is not putting up with nonsense. Thank you. Thank you, Red Bull CEO. Thank you. You have given me hope for corporate America.